Okay, let's join together in prayer. Gracious God, we thank you for an opportunity to be together again here with each other in this church and looking at and exploring our dreams and dream life. We ask your blessings upon our time today. Be with us here in our midst. Also hear the prayers and the desires of our hearts for those loved ones that we lift up to you. For CJ's sister Joanna and her upcoming surgery, for Celeste's friend sister and her continuing battle with Huntington's, for Zdena's family, her son and his need for healing, and for a safe birth of her fourth great-grandchild. These are people we know that are close to us, Lord, and we ask your blessings upon them and your peace to be in our hearts as we consider them. We also pray for Dave Weiss, our bass soloist in the choir. We also pray for our country and our world, which is suddenly in such turmoil and undergoing such tremendous generational plus changes. Be with us all. Give us peace. Remind us that you are with us in and through everything that's going on all around us, and that you call to us and you give us guidance and comfort and support. Hear our prayers, Lord. We lift them all in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, I want to just have a little discussion about how we're doing with everything, and if we have any new insights, any new realizations that have come in the last week or so, and if any of you have seen the videos, if you have comments on them. It's the first time I've done a video thing like this, and I would like to be able to get into doing podcasts, and these are sort of a step in that direction. So I would be interested in hearing comments from you. If something in the videos didn't make sense or seemed out of context or whatever it may be, let me know, because I'm going to go through them and see. For the podcast, I'm looking at the microphone and imagining you out there. Here, I know you're there. I see you. I see your body language, all that sort of stuff. So I have a feel for what to do, and we'll see how it all goes. So any comments on the video?
How do we access the video?
Go to the church website, and underneath there'll be a banner, either the bulletin cover for the season or a picture of the front of the church. And underneath there's 4 little icons, one of which is YouTube. Click on that and it'll take you to the YouTube library where you'll see John's Thursday presentations and these classes and John's Monday morning quarterbacks from all the past. So that's how you do it.
If you follow it, then they'll notify you.
Oh, yeah? Wow. So I have watched them closely to see what kinds of things I may have misspoken about or was incomplete or whatever. And one of the things that I talk about frequently is the fact that dreams are a portal into our lived experience of the world around us, and particularly what I want to call the spiritual world, the unconscious world, the world of images and symbols that really make up a lot of how we function. And they're certainly a big part of our faith. Our worship life is filled with symbols. The scripture is filled with symbols and stories, and those are important. But as I mentioned in that quote from Karl Rahner, the Christian of the future will either be a mystic, that is, somebody with an experience of God, or they will be nothing at all. And the meaning there is that the pressure upon us to be other than faithful is immense and intense, and it only goes up. I don't know how many of you follow the issue of kids and social media and all of that stuff, and how social media is wreaking havoc among adolescents. The pressures that we are under, the constant stream of images and what they call clickbait, stuff that draws your attention, is unlike we've ever seen before, and it's causing problems. One of the ways that we as faithful can stay centered is to remember our faith and to be focused on that. Don't get distracted by stuff that's sensational, and pay more attention to the world of spirit around you. I'm going to talk a little bit about psi experiences in a while. But what I want to emphasize is that dreams are one of the ways in which we can access that world of the spirit that's in ourselves and is in the universe and the world around us. So that's something that to me is always in the background of what we're doing, that we are looking for ways to sense God's presence in our lives, in the world around us, in each other, and in our dreams. Also, I said something about our dreams take our past experiences, our memories. Well, they do, but not always, because that stands in contrast to the other statement I make, which is 90% of our dreams are day residue. Well, that's memories that haven't been set yet. It's the bigger dreams that put us in places of our memory that we want to look at a little more closely than just the day residue. Day residue will have some spark for us, but the dreams that take us back in our memory memory. Particularly, I've found us talking about houses in this group, houses where I've lived and the experiences that I've had in those houses. And yet I may dream I'm in that house, but it looks nothing like that house did. What do I do with that? Well, then you take a look at what are the differences and how might those differences be a bridge between that house from back in my past life and right now, where the dreams that I'm having right now connect to that house. So those are just a few points that I want to lift up, that yes, most of our dreams are day residue. There'll be content and material from stuff we watched on TV, news we heard, conversation with somebody, any number of things. But the bigger dreams are going to be the ones that go back in our memories and dig up deeper memories, more emotionally resonant memories to where we are right now. So those are two of the varieties of dreams. Most of them day residue. Some are the big ones like that. And that's a good distinction to keep. Now I want to talk about the value of a dream group in a church, and this comes from the chapter in this book that I've had on the table back there. The chapter is called Benefits of a Parish Dream Group. Imagine, pretty creative title. And this is what I came up with for this article. This is a book published by a combination of Dutch and people in the UK. It's published in the UK. Anyway, several goals that can be considered for a parish dream group. To be more comfortable with our own dream life. And I've noticed that happening here, just in our discussions here, that suddenly I'm beginning to remember, I'm writing them down. It's moving more to the surface and more on my daily agenda, so to speak. Goal 2, learn the language of dreams. And this is a real important one, because if you're new to dream work and you're a part of our culture, it's going to seem strange and it's going to be a different language. And you need to make a little bit of a shift in understanding what are images and symbols and metaphors, as opposed to our rational thinking of everything is concrete, means exactly what it says. And if I can't prove it, I don't believe it, and all that sort of stuff. Dreams speak a different language that we need to sort of move into. Goal 3, to be open. This is kind of a variation of number 2, to be more open to the metaphors and images of the Bible. And we've talked about that a little bit, and I'll be curious to hear how that develops as we go along. I'm going to talk in a minute about having a monthly dream group coming out of this, and then we can begin to talk about some of these things in a more everyday fashion as we go through time together. Goal 4, to see what greater sense of creativity, freedom, sensitivity, awareness, tolerance, compassion might come from tending our dreams. Those are another list of qualities that could stand next to peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, self-control, and some of the scriptural lists that we have of qualities that we hope to adapt in ourselves as a part of our living out our faith. And goal 5, to see how our lives of faith, our spiritual lives, are affected by our having tended our dreams more deliberately and regularly. So that's what the parish dream group can do, and I'd like us to talk about that. When could we do a dream group? John is planning a new series at noon on Wednesdays, starting on, I think, the first Wednesday in May, I believe. So Wednesday at noon is taken. We need to find another place to go. And depending on how many people are interested, we could even do 2 different groups. I think more than 6 or 7 people in a dream group gets to be cumbersome over the long stretch. If it's just a 1 or 2 time session, that can work. What about if we did Wednesday, say at 3 o'clock? May 21st at 3 o'clock? I want to follow up a little bit on last week's presentation. I talked specifically about labyrinths and icons, and I have brought 3 icons and put them on that table back there, and 2 labyrinths. One, I didn't put the sand in it, but you'll see the pattern, and it's a finger labyrinth, and the one next to it is a pewter labyrinth where you take a stylus and follow. It's one you can stick in your pocket if you really become a labyrinth nerd. You have it everywhere you go. If you get upset, you take it out and do your stuff, and just ignore the people looking at you strangely all around you. But the purpose of a labyrinth is to get you moving, first of all, and to shut off the part of you that has to decide what to do. Once you're in a labyrinth, the path is laid out for you, and you go all around different patterns, go into the center, and you stop there for a while, and then you come back out. And the function is to pray that when you're in there, the analogy that I like to use is that your mind gets into a place, your heart, mind, soul, all that gets into a place where it's like, how many of you are driving down the road and you have a sudden thought about something or an insight about something, or you're in the shower and you get a clue about something? Those are places where you are doing stuff, but it takes so little of the upper cortex of your brain that you're free to let other stuff come and to just think about stuff. That's what a labyrinth attempts to do, and it works. Have any of you walked the labyrinth? Yeah, okay, good. Did you walk the one over at St. Andrews?
I did that one, and then the one in Prague that we found in that garden.
That's right.
And there's one in Salt Lake City at the Episcopal House when we were on an Easter work camp for UMCOR. We went there.
I haven't
They have
used
one
it.
there.
I just checked on the iPhone App Store. There's an app called Labyrinth Journey, a mindful and calming experience.
Yeah, right, of all the labyrinths. Yeah. There are other patterns for labyrinths. This one is the one that's found in Chartres Cathedral on the floor. And for the icons, you'll notice that an icon, I have three there. One is Jesus, and he's holding his one hand in a symbol that is the symbol of blessing that Orthodox priests use, and the other he's holding a book, which we can assume is the Bible. So if you're using that for prayer, you're praying either to and through Jesus or to and through the blessing symbol or the Bible. And these are symbols that in themselves or through them, you move into the depth of your faith. The other two are both Madonna and child icons, which are fairly easy to relate to if you choose. Mother and child, all of us have been there, either the child or some of us, the mother. And the spiritual dimensions of that and who Mary is, who Jesus is, all of those are symbols and images that carry a lot of importance for us. And if we're praying with them, they open up more. And the connection for me is our dream images function the same way. When I have a particularly potent dream image and I meditate on that and think about it, it draws me into where was I at the time? What was happening to me at the time? Who were the people around me at the time? Why am I thinking about this now at the time? And the possibilities are not quite endless, but there's a whole bunch of them. Where was I at this point? What did it smell like? What did it look like? I mean, the questions you can ask yourself and the parts of yourself in your history that you can explore are really immense. And I like the idea of you move into something and it just opens up for you. That's what an image or a symbol does. It's concrete there, but it holds meaning behind it, and that's what you want to move into. And our dream images are personalized symbols for us because our dream images come out of our own heart, mind, and soul generally. We may attach images that are called archetypes that are sort of universal images. A mother and a child. There's an archetype that's as human as you're going to get. I don't want to go to too much length about these, but this is the idea that you use your dream symbols and images to move into what God might be presenting to you and for you in that particular image at this point in your life. Okay, now I want to move to last two chapters of the book, challenges for dream work. We've already seen one, and that's recall, isn't it? How do I remember these dreams and so forth? And I had a handout for recall. So dreams are different in our life stages also. When we're adolescents or children, our dreams may be much more literal than they would be when we're adults. The Swiss psychologist Carl Jung had a schema of life stages, and there were two for him. The first life stage is you're building your life, the first half of it. Education, getting a job, possibly getting married, having a family, starting a career, all of that stuff. The second half of life happens usually when you're in your 40s or 50s. What we in our culture have termed a midlife crisis is the shift from one to the other. And how do you begin to integrate everything that you've done now? How do you make soul work out of the life building work that you had before? And our dreams are going to reflect that difference. That difference in our dream life starts even in our 20s and 30s because we've done the physical development that we need to, and now we're moving into the more intellectual, spiritual, emotional growth and development. So it's helpful to understand the phase of life we're in. No question for us, we're all in the second phase, integrating and coming to terms with our life. How many of our dreams are going to remind us of something we'd rather forget or wished we had forgotten? And if we dream about that, how do we integrate it into where we are right now? I went through a particularly difficult time about 4 years ago, and I started remembering all these embarrassing things I did. And I thought, what's going on? And it was prompted by my making a big financial mistake in one of our European trips and going to the wrong airport, missing the whole flight with 2 grandkids and blah, blah. And I came home from that, shook up. Dude, you lost it. Are you losing it permanently? What's going on? And I began to remember other embarrassing things. My spiritual director sent me to somebody else. She said, I'm not sure I can handle that. And I have now kind of a combination spiritual director, psychology professor type guy. But it was my dreams that suddenly took a dark turn. Wow. I've got to integrate this. And that, to me, it's a fuller maturity, coming to grips with all of who I am in all of my life. And my dreams have been a wonderful guide for that. And again, that's the phases of life that we can be in. Also, you have to be interested in self-reflection. Who am I honestly? Because if you're not willing to find that out, dream work isn't for you because it's going to present to you. Many of us know who we are at this point in our life. We're still going to be surprised by some stuff in our dreams, but that's part of the process. And we can always grow until we take our last breath. I'm not sure I will be able to forgive certain people and things until my last breath. And I hope I can by then. It's a desire, but I know how difficult it is. Also, I talked previously about our moral code in dreams when we talked about the difficult images of dreams, sex and murder and death and those kinds of things, that we have to be willing to suspend our moral code to do dream work. Not to live, mind you, I'm not saying that at all, but to remember that because we dream we do something is an indication of something deeper, most likely our emotions, our feelings about something. And we do not act them out because we're mature people and moral people and all of that stuff. But in our dream life, we are forgiven for transgressing our moral code in our dream life, especially forgiven if we learn from it. If we can understand why that dream image, why now? Another one I want to talk about is psi phenomena, paranormal stuff, deja vu. How many of you have had deja vu experiences where you suddenly experience something that's like, I've been here before? I've gotten to the place now where I can remember the dreams I had that the deja vu was referencing. And I have a friend, an American who transplanted to Switzerland. He has spent a lot of time on deja vu. There's 4 or 5 different deja vectu, deja stuff. But he's convinced, and I'm convinced, that when we have a deja vu experience, it's something we have dreamt before. I haven't had a deja vu experience for 20 years now that I can't pinpoint the dream. Oh, there's that dream. Cool. Some of them have been really fun, right? We call it psi phenomena, PSI. Not normal, not rational. And what we call synchronicities. I dream of someone in the morning, and I see them that day, or I hear from them that day. That's the dream version of it. The other version of it is that we're thinking about someone. I wish Liz was here today because she was talking about, she kept feeling that God wanted her to call somebody to do something. Okay, what's that all about? And we'll have to talk to her another time, I guess. But synchronicity of something coincidental happening. Coincidence is another way. And somebody mentioned God incidents. Was that you, Lori? Where'd you hear that?
There's a woman who lives at Brookdale who actually lives there.
That's right. So it happens a lot. And my experience is that it will happen more the more you pay attention to your dreams because they are related. The dream world does not know time or space. All those boundaries and those physical laws are non-existent. And so we may dream something that will happen in the future or something very much like it. And the more we pay attention to our dreams, that kind of thing happens more often. The last point, I think, is mistaken literalism, that we want to make sure that we understand our dreams are not literal. And the best example I can think of as an illustration of that is when Jesus says, if your right hand sins against you, what are you supposed to do with it? Well, how many of us would have either hand if we took that literally? Or either eye? And you know, there was a time, I think in England, when that was a penalty. If you stole something, you could get your hand cut off. And I think they still do that in some countries. Jesus didn't mean it that way. That's mistaken literalism when we take it that way. The same thing when we talk about dreams of sex or murder or death. It's not literal, and if you take it literal, you're going in the wrong direction. You're going to miss what the dream has for you. That's in this style of dream work. You may be aware that the guys who pulled off 9/11, they were directed by their dreams, and they had dreams
All of them? Or just the
enough
leaders?
of that, the leadership in particular.
But more than one
More
is
than
what you're
one,
saying.
yes. So dreams are not always innocent because, again, what do you do with your dreams when you wake up? As faithful Christians, we would not do what these guys did with their dreams. So I don't want to push that too far, but it's important to remember that our dreams are a function of our living. Our faith is our intention with our living, and we want to use that intention to be faithful and use whatever our experiences are in that same direction. Any questions or comments on that before I go to the next one? The next one would be, what's the future of dream work? We've already heard from those of you with Apple Watches, let you know when you're in REM sleep and all that stuff. There are a lot of apps and things available now that can facilitate dream recall, stimulate dreaming and stuff like that. I still think the best idea is wake up, write them down, and then do something with them later. Apps are wonderful, but they can distract us from very basic human stuff.
It's just so hard to make yourself wake up and to write it down.
It is, but just a note, just a word.
I like your way, but I haven't gotten today.
Oh, what's your way?
Oh, the dictating the
He
voice
went in the
note.
bathroom and talked to his phone.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Well, you could go to the bathroom and write it if you. What you got, Judy?
This was what my scribbling from not last night, night before last.
Really?
Did
And
you
I
read
read
it?
it overnight.
Yeah,
What
exactly.
is that?
Again, yes.
That's the catch.
Part of it.
That's what gets difficult. And I'll give an example of that in a minute. So there's a lot of stuff available online. One of my friends in the DreamWorks stuff, Kelly Bulkley, who has a note on the back of the book, has what he calls the Sleep and Dream Database, where he has taken thousands of dreams and put them into a database. And there are others available like this, where you can say, I dream of a blue car. What does that mean? And it'll find you. I think this was before AI started, and I'm not sure how AI is contributing to it, but it will give you what percentage of dreams will have cars in them, what percentage may have blue in them, all that stuff. And there's just a lot of that stuff out there. And once you get into using your own dreams regularly, go to those. But I really would encourage you to, in the beginning, stick with just remembering what you dream and making note of it. And I'll have a handout that will enable you to do a little bit of work with it between now and the dream group that we're going to have. You also may find personal prayer images. I mentioned either last week or the week before that I would dream about this friend of mine that lives in Van Nuys when I lived in Utah. He became a personal image for me of the need for rest and relaxation, or just a symbol that I'm overstressed, I'm overwhelmed, and I need a break. And you will find, I believe, that we come up with our own images that repeat to us. Images that may be helpful, that may be warnings, perhaps, but also just markers of this image is a marker of some emotion that I go through, some feeling of being overwhelmed or overjoyed even, or curious or frightened. All of the emotions that we have may have particular dream images in our heart and mind. And as you work with your dreams, you can begin to sort of compile that dictionary. I've talked about choir is one of my images now because that's intense for me. Turnbull Canyon is one of mine. I have dreams of usually up at the top up there. So that experiences that I go through in my waking life, when they become dream images, then I understand that they are hinting at my feelings and my experiences in my waking life of being in those places. My dreams of being in the choir are, am I going to do this right? Am I finding friends there? What's happening for me in the choir when I'm up in the canyon? This is nature. This is beautiful. What do I see here? Literally, I can see downtown LA. I can see the San Gabriel Valley, all that stuff. And what perspective, when the scenery changes, how do I incorporate that into my waking life?
The choir thing, though, I think isn't just a place, it's a family.
Yes.
It's the group, and it can be really intense. When we were out for COVID and we came back, it was like we finally were back home.
That wasn't an experience for me because I came after.
That's when you
COVID.
came. But what I'm saying is your dreams.
Oh,
I think,
yeah,
are
sure.
more personal, emotional kind of, not just a place.
And
like
more so
Turbo
because
Canyon.
we'd been through the COVID isolation.
Well,
So, yeah. All right. I had said last week, I had talked about I have had very few dreams of Jesus, and I had 3 at the beginning of COVID time. And so I just wanted to bring them. One of them was I woke up with the words of the hymn, He Leadeth Me. Now, it doesn't say Jesus. Jesus wasn't in the dream at all. But if you know the hymn, that's who the He is. So it's an indirect reference to Jesus. That was on February 20th, before we hit the intense COVID stuff. Here's one on March 13th. That's what I call the hypnagogic, which means when I'm waking up in the morning, and it's an image. And I've talked about that earlier on, that one of the issues for recall for us is when we're falling asleep and when we're waking up, and we go through those cycles of brainwave activity, but styles of sleep. And just before we wake up will be the hypnagogic period where we're finishing a dream. So the hypnagogic image may be the last one, and you want to start with that and then try to remember what was happening before that, and it may be a way to get into the dream. Anyway, my hypnagogic vision of a crucifix and the thought or the voice of, you're still wrestling with Jesus. I tried to make it lucid to get in there and say, oh yeah, tell me, who's talking to me? How am I wrestling? And I couldn't do it. Lost it and fell asleep. But there it was, Jesus again. And as I've said before, that's a rare occurrence for me. And then the next one was on April 2nd. We'd been about 3 weeks into COVID stuff, maybe 4. I dream another hypnagogic scene where I see, hear, or imagine the phrase, Jesus, a new moment of something, star. And for the life of me, I could not remember what that something was, because I started to forget it so quickly that what I did remember was a new Jesus, a new moment of star. So that's just a clue that, like, Judy, when you look at your notes, it's like, what does that say? For me, it's, alas, frequent occurrence that just happens too often. But it's worth pursuing anyway. And for me, this was, well, there's Jesus again. Even though I don't remember the details, it's a dream of Jesus. Certainly, Jesus came more present to me as the lockdown hit and the world went crazy than in a long time. So those are just examples of my Jesus dreams. I have another handout. Then this one is a quick reference guide for dream work, and it comes out of the book called Dream Language. It's a blue covered book back there. And it's, for my money, if you wanted to buy one single book to learn about doing dream work, that would be the book. And it has in it a whole bunch of charts and things about color and what to do with your dreams. So this has a couple of the charts. I've accredited it. The guy's a friend of mine. I'm not going to read it out of copyright. No. So these, we're not going to do anything with these now, and one of the things we have not talked about is color in dreams. So there's a whole chart in the back because psychologists have studied colors and what they do and how they affect us. And if you get into this, you'll find that the color of psychiatric institutions is generally light blue or light green. And the color chart will tell you. How many of you can remember color in your dreams? Some people have a tough time with it until they begin to pay attention, and then something will show up. And interestingly, it may be only one object in the dream that's colored. So you can use this chart, let's say a yellow flower, then you want to look at yellow, and it gives you 9 possible associations with that color. So you can see all the colors are listed there. That book has another chart, whereas when there are 2 colors, he makes a graph, like here's the one color, here's the other, and you go down to where they meet and find out what that's all about. So it's a fascinating world that is already out there. I mean, people do interior design using color and color associations. Our dreams do the same thing, and this may be a fun way to do that. The front of the page is a possible guide for dream work, and it just reminds you, record the dream, what are the metaphors in the dream, work on a dream image, and there's a little dream image interview there, relate your life situations, and do color work, and then you just flip over the sheet. So between now and the dream group we're going to have on May 21st, you may want to use this and play with your dreams a little bit just to see how it feels. And as you do this, does that prompt dream recall? Who knows? It may.
This colour thing is astonishing. I had a dream for the first time just a few days ago, and I was in a pale green elevator. I'm just looking at the green thinking, oh.
But green's a good color, isn't it? Don't you get?
It's got green there, yeah. It's the last three issues.
Green has 14 different associations. And you'll notice that they will go from green being, I want recognition. Somebody is green with envy. You know that expression?
That's true. I need more money to feel secure.
Yes.
It's a very
I need healing of mental health.
I'd rather be blue than green, apparently.
Oh, dear.
Yes.
But again, for me, green is not always a negative. It doesn't have as many negative associations for me as this list does.
No, I would think it'd be uplifting.
Yeah, it's springtime, vegetation, yeah,
Right.
all that stuff.
Especially if you're riding through the canyon.
Oh,
Yes.
dear.
There's
When
a
it's
change.
green,
And it's
Yes,
green.
it can be
there
green
is
or
a
it can be
change.
brown. Okay, so we've got your handouts, and I would encourage you to write everything down that you think of. Even if it seems silly, just make a note. If you have a journal or a tablet like Judy has, and see how things develop, and then we'll come back together and do a more regular routine of this. So, who has a dream?